Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. Back today to do the mid-year book freakout tag. It is that time of the year where booktubers all like to have a little look at the past 6 months of reading and just have a ponder about how things have been going, take stock of our reading. Another video that I really like doing this time of year is my best books of the year so far, so that will be coming very soon. But before we get into that, let's get into some of these questions. Question number 1 is the best book that you've read so far in 2024. And I'm actually going to be doubling this up with the best sequel that I've read so far in 2024, the next question, because the answer is the same. My favourite book that I've read and my favourite sequel that I have read is The Temple of Fortuna by Elodie Harper. This is the third book in the Wolf Den trilogy. I absolutely loved this finale to the Wolf Den trilogy. I thought the series went out with a bang in more ways than one. I will make that joke every single time that I talk about this book. The plot was fantastic. The send-off to a lot of these characters was just brilliant. I've done a full review video for this one, which I'll link down below, which will also go into details about the first 2 books in the series, in case you haven't read any of them. But yeah, fantastic book. Question number 3 is new release you haven't read yet but want to. For me, that is definitely Hera by Jennifer Saint. I've had a bit of an up and down relationship with Jennifer Saint where I really didn't like Ariadne, which was her first very popular Greek myth retelling, but then have since read Electra and Atalanta and really enjoyed them. So I'm always hoping that I'm just on an upward trajectory with Jennifer Saint. And Hera I am definitely so excited for, so I definitely need to have that on my docket for reading in the next few months. Question number 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. For me, that is a toss-up between The King's Mother by Annie Garthwaite, which is the second book in her Cecily Neville series. I don't know if it's just going to be a duology. I don't know where this next book actually finishes. It might just be the second half of her life is covered in this one. But yeah, I really enjoyed Cecily and I was just wanting more from the end of it, so the fact that we've had to wait 3 years means that this is definitely an anticipated release for me. The other most anticipated release is coming out in July as well, and it is The Trouble with Mrs. Montgomery Hurst by Katie Lumsden, otherwise known as Katie over at Books and Things. I'm so looking forward to the second book by her. I really enjoyed The Secrets of Heartwood Hall last year when I read that. That was more of a Bronte inspired, more gothic fiction. This one is more of a comedy of manners, more inspired by the Regency and early Victorian period. A love letter to Jane Austen and Elizabeth Gaskell, which is definitely, as much as I love the Brontes, something that is more inspired by Austen is definitely more up my street. So I will hopefully be getting to this very soon. Question number 5 is the biggest disappointment from this year, and unfortunately you probably know what's coming. My biggest disappointment so far this year is Mary or the Birth of Frankenstein by Anne Eckhout, another one that I have done a full review for. But I just love learning about Mary Shelley so much. I love Frankenstein, so I was expecting great things from this kind of historical fiction retelling of her life, and I just found it incredibly disappointing. Where it wasn't completely ridiculous, it was really dull. It really had nothing to do with Mary Shelley or Frankenstein. It just kind of felt like historical fan fiction, and yeah, I was not a fan. Question number 6 is the biggest surprise, and for me that's actually the first book that I read this year, which is This Time Next Year by Sophie Cousins. I picked up this book because I was just in the mood for a New Year's based romance, and this one was really charming, really surprised me. You know, to say all I was looking for was something quite shallow. You know, a book that is set around New Year and is a romance is going to be quite light and fluffy, and this, while still being quite light-hearted, tackled deeper topics than I thought it would. And so yeah, a really lovely surprise from this year. Question number 7 is favourite new author, either a debut or new to me author, and for me that is definitely Claire Keegan. I've read 3 books by Claire Keegan this year after hearing so much buzz and hype for her books. I read Foster at the beginning of the year, and then I read So Late in the Day and Small Things Like These kind of back to back in May, and what a fantastic author. She's definitely the queen of brevity. She tends to publish short stories and novellas, and no word is wasted in these books, and yet she's able to get across so much in such a short package. I will definitely be going to more Claire Keegan in the future. Question number 8 is the most maligned question on this tag, which is newest fictional crush. I will defend this question to the end of the earth. Nothing wrong with having a fictional crush or two. Though years past I've not tended to have one, this year some of the romance that I've been reading this year have had some very swoon-worthy boys. I have 2 for this question, and I feel like the 2 that I have are quite similar to each other. There's Max Melville from A Lady's Guide to Scandal, and then Ned Lightbourne from The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. Both of them are very charming, quite cheeky characters. A little devilish, a little rakish, which honestly don't feel like is my type at all, but in fiction, very enjoyable to read. Apparently in fiction I just enjoy a rake with a heart of gold. And I mean, Ned Lightbourne, he stole a library for Cecilia. Like, of course I'm gonna like him. I mean, men, really, what is stopping you from stealing a library for your lady love? No, it's not an unrealistic expectation. What are you talking about? Question number 9 is newest favourite character, and we're going back to Claire Keegan on this. I feel like it's a toss-up between Bill Furlong in Small Things Like These or the Kinslers in Foster. Just very warm, kind people who really shine in worlds that are often not not so kind have been really pulling at my heartstrings this year. And speaking of that, we have a book that made me cry. And for that, the ending of Foster really did get me. We've been building up this story of this little girl who has come from quite a neglectful family, finally for the summer being shown love by the family that is looking after her, to then seeing her having to go back to this neglectful family was just really heartbreaking, and my heart just went out to both the counsellors and this little girl. I always say I don't tend to cry too much at books, but you know, sometimes I will get the emotions welling up in me. That definitely happened for Foster. It also definitely happened for In Memoriam by Alice Wynne, another fantastic book, but in a very different way in Memoriam, because In Memoriam can get quite grisly at times. We are looking at the horrors of World War One, the effects on soldiers' mental health. Parts of that book were very much difficult to read and just got me a bit choked up. Question number 11, a book that made me happy, was definitely A Lady's Guide to Scandal by Sophie Irwin. As I've said, I really enjoyed Max Melville as a character, but just generally seeing this little riff on Jane Austen's persuasion, seeing this main character being able to really come into her own and express herself in a way that she never got to when she was married, just made me very happy. Question number 12 is the most beautiful book that you've bought / received so far this year. And this one will have to go to Mary or the Birth of Frankenstein. Once again propping up my theory that the most beautiful books tend to be quite deceiving, because I tend to have a theme of my reading where I'll pick up a book which is absolutely stunning on the cover and then end up being really disappointed by the inside. Though I also recently picked up 365 Poems for Life by Ali Asiri, and this is quite a beautiful little thing as well. TBC on the content. I also recently picked up the paperbacks of the Dangerous Damsels trilogy, and they are also very beautiful. You're probably picking up on a theme. I really like floral book designs, does a lot for me. And then finally, question number 13 is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? One that I need to read pretty much now, or if not now then in the next couple of months, is The Iliad, translated by Emily Wilson, because I have had the hardback of this book since it came out, thinking I'm going to read this straight away, no need to wait for the paperback, and now we're looking at August for the paperback coming out and I've still not finished it, and I'm going to be really cross with myself if I don't manage to get around to it before the paperback comes out. There's also Emma Southern's book, A History of Ancient Rome in 21 Women. That was one that I was so excited for when it came out last year, and I've still not gotten around to. Also one that I want to make sure that I've read by the end of the year, because it is such a big book that I worry that I just might not get round to it because it's so big and for no other reason, is Fane by Anne-Marie MacDonald. But I've heard such great things about this book, particularly from Scott over at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, so definitely one that I want to read before the end of 2024. So there we go, those are all of my answers to the questions of the mid-year book freakout tag. Please let me know if you've read any of the books that I've spoken about today, and let me know your answers to any of these questions. I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.